Hello and welcome to this latest episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Our guest today is the promoter and managing director of a company which started its journey way back in 1990 with an annual turnover. The turnover of the first year was a little over 1 crore rupees, and today, in fact in FY18, it closed the year at overall turnover of close to 11,000 crore rupees and is the latest company to enter the bourses. We are talking about Mr. Tarang Jain, the managing director of Varroc Engineering. Tarang, welcome to Autocar Professional Dialogue.
Thank you for having me, Sumantra.
And Tarang, long way from a turnover of 1 crore to today we are talking about close to 11,000 crores, and very soon you are going to go public.
Yes. So I think it's for us it's a huge milestone. I mean, it's a milestone event for us because we have remained public we have remained private over so many years, and yes, we are going this thing public now. But having said that, I think though things do change as a publicly limited company, we know about the pressures of quarter-on-quarter reporting or the previous year's quarter to this quarter. But this is something I think we have always been a very professionally driven company. We believe in corporate governance. We believe in data integrity, financial discipline, over the years, and I think that's something. So yes, it is a little bit of a change in life, but something which we are for us. But for us, I think we are pretty comfortable going public, and we're looking forward to it.
I think 2006 onwards, you started taking inorganic growth steps, and how do you plan to take that story forward in terms of growing inorganically? I believe you have recently made an acquisition, the formal announcement to the world, which you are yet to make. Can you just tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So see, Sumantra, we have been, as you correctly said, we started our operation in 1990 in Aurangabad, and till 2006, we were largely more an India-centric player, maybe some exports out of India. But I think around 2005 I felt that we should kind of grow across borders, not just by exporting, but having a manufacturing facility there. So we made our first acquisition, not really from a strategic point of view, but more from a growth point of view. We made our first acquisition of a company doing large forgings in Italy,
right,
which was followed in 2011 where we bought in into a company called Triumph, which was a part of a core business, two-wheeler lighting. More for technology reasons in the two-wheeler lighting space. They also had a footprint in Vietnam. So we have actually made these acquisitions, but really, I would say, today I would say that today we have a very clear strategy, which we didn't have in 2006. So today our strategy is around our two core businesses. One is a local business, one is a global business. The local business, the original business to do with is the India business, which is more the two and three-wheeler parts business, where we are the most diversified auto component group in India, having 16 products across 3 divisions, a very strong player in the 2 and 3 wheeler space, supplying to all the marquee customers. So here we don't really see much of a possibility of M&A growth going forward, because we already enjoy good market shares, and there's also a good level of cross-selling which is already happening year on year over here. But where we see a lot of a good amount of M&A activity happening will be in our second and the largest core business of global exterior lighting. That's where we today have only a 4% market share of the global vehicle market, passenger car market, which is about 90 million cars. So obviously we're looking at market share growth, and we have been growing since we took over that business in 2012-13. We have grown at about 14 to 15% CAGR.
That particular business.
In that particular business.
Okay.
Overall, we have grown at about, I would say, 13 to 14%.
Right.
Over the past 5 years as a group, but that business has grown this thing a little faster, but still, compared to the India businesses where we are very strong, number 2, in the lighting business, we are only number 6.
Number 6, yes.
So we need to really move forward. We need higher, market share growth from the present 4%.
That explains the latest acquisition.
So therefore, we are looking at opportunities in the lighting space, for cars. There are not too many, opportunities available. So, but some do come by, and that's something we are very alert about, and we have also, so we are on the lookout for acquisitions, and that's going to be, other than organic play, where we will, in the lighting business, where we will be growing faster than the market.
Right.
But that's not enough for us to grow market share, to the extent we want, so we will have to look at M&A. in the global lighting space, to increase market share.
Right.
Because we already possess all the level. So our M&A will not be there for technology.
Right.
For technology, we are already amongst the top 8 to 10 players in the world would possess the relevant technologies for today and for tomorrow in the global lighting space. It will be more for market share growth.
You're still not telling me about the latest acquisition.
So there is a small acquisition we made in Turkey.
Right.
It's still not closed out, so I can't really name the company. There's something we want to take over probably from July onwards. I think probably it will be a part of our lighting entity. I think Turkey is a very important market. It's a market of 1.7 million cars, which is the local market. Plus you can do exports to Europe, also in some of the other regions, So very good market, and I think getting a kind of entry there through this company, I think bodes well for us. Some of the customers also we have today, some of the global customers we have, passenger car customers, also very happy about this acquisition.
Okay.
And we see a significant growth in our revenues in the Turkish market.
And also, Tarang, the global megatrends, namely safety, electrification, autonomous driving, connected vehicles, to me it appears, while I don't think it will adversely impact your business because you're not say part of the conventional IC engine or something, but does it also give you new opportunities? Could you throw some light on how do you plan to tap the opportunities that these megatrends offer to auto component suppliers like you? Yeah.
So see, today, as you correctly said, 84% of our business is engine agnostic. But having said that, the 16% which is engine driven is largely more in India. Both in a 2 and 3-wheeler space, our main businesses, and also a little bit on the 4-wheeler component space. See, where I see a huge possibility, because of this coming trends. Let's talk about India. Let's talk about the disruptions which are happening, or rather I would say the opportunities we are getting out of the disruptions which are happening out of safety, on the safety side, on the emission norm side,
right?
The new BS6 norm side. I think there are huge opportunities because what is happening that out of the products we have in the 2 and 3-wheeler space, the 16 products, some of the products are going to see a large content growth, like electronic dashboards, fully electronics. There are 3 times content growth there. Or you talk about LED penetration in 2-wheeler lighting, huge, content growth, over there. Also, when it comes to emissions disruption, the catalyst which we do is also going to see a content growth. Plus, we are also entering into the important electronic fuel injection space with a partnership with an Italian player. The 17th product we are adding.
When do you plan to enter into that space?
So this space is something which we will come in from the BS6 from 2020. We'll also be one of the. We will not be a significant supplier in this space, but we'll make an entry here, which is very important for us. So we see a lot of we are seeing a lot of good opportunities for revenue growth, because of these disruptions which are happening in India. Also, I feel there is going to be more focus on lightweighting. So we are already a significant player in the plastic molding space. So we see more opportunities coming into plastic molding, some more parts getting converted,
right, from metal to plastic.
Metal to plastic. So that's also going to lead to certain revenue growth for us. And also with the EV penetration, which will happen in India, more so maybe more in the 2 and 3-wheeler space, that's also an area we want to play in. We want to be a part of the electric powertrain. We see, so that's something we're exploring at the moment.
So that's another new business?
Another new business we're exploring at the moment, and we want to be a part of that also.
Okay.
Being a significant player in a 2 and 3-wheeler market in India, which is the largest market in the world, we cannot be left out of that particular segment too. Coming to the global lighting business, where it comes to whether EV or non-EV, EV of course, like I said, we are number 6 globally where it comes to, the overall lighting market, global lighting, where we are number 6 with a 4% market share. But on the EV space, electric vehicle lighting space, which is full LED, we have a 20% share.
And that puts you in where does it put you in the pecking order?
So we are number 2 there,
right,
in the EV space, but EV space still is quite small. In maybe not more than 1.5 million cars out of 90 million, because still, but it's growing. I mean, it's growing. So, but for us, it's not only about EV or non-EV. I think the LED penetration overall is actually growing very fast. Right. For example, today, global market for headlamps, the LED headlamps today is already at 10 to 12% levels. The rear lamps are closer to 30% levels, penetration levels. What I understand is, that within the next 3 to 4 years, this penetration will, in the case of headlamps, go to almost 30%.
For LEDs?
For LEDs, globally. And in the case of the rear lamps, it's going to be almost 70%. So that kind of penetration is actually helping revenue growth.
Right.
Because see, the car market going forward will not grow more than 2%. The lighting market, generally the lamps, will not grow more than 4.5%. But because of this content growth, that will lead to higher revenue growth for us. Other than that, I think the future trends which you talked about, connectivity, shared mobility, autonomy, that's something which is, going to happen. And I think what's going to happen is very exciting for the lighting players who possess a kind of technologies. So for example, you will see integration in lamps of the LiDAR, of more sensors, of more light detection,
Right.
So which means, also further higher revenue streams, So all those little bit of ugly things are going to be, packaged into the lamp, which is a very attractive thing.
Right.
Product. So we see, a lot of huge possibilities, irrespective of the passenger car market growth globally. We see a huge growth, in the global lighting segment.
Where do you see some challenges, perhaps?
So the challenges, you're talking about as an organization, or you're talking about in the market?
As an industry player in the market, in the industry.
So see the good part today is that competition is of course there, whether it's in India, or whether it's abroad. But the good part for us is that we are very strong when it comes to product technology. So today I would say on a global basis we possess what the relevant technologies for today and tomorrow, which is I think a very important thing for any auto component player to have. You can't be dependent on somebody else for that. Secondly, I think what we have done well over the years, where we're very strong in, is the QCD, scorecards of customers, as such. That is something also which is which we are very strong in. Where one area which could, because of the fast growth rates we have, and I would say more abroad, one area we would have to be a little bit more kind of sensitive about and cognizant of is the new launches. Because of the kind of growth rates we have enjoyed in the past, if you continue with the same growth rates of higher, then the launches we do, the new launches we do have to be non-events. They have to be flawless.
Right.
Because the risk there is that it could hit EBITDA margins in case it is not launched in the right way, and also could be a little bit of a risk, a minor risk for some loss of some platform or something. But I would say that so far we've done a good job, so I don't see any reason for us to be. But that's I would say something which we have to be sensitive about. And another thing I think would be acquisition of new talent, in the business, because that's something very important. If you're growing at the kind of rates we want to grow, the growth rates, then you have to be able to acquire good talent. So acquisition of talent and developing talent from within is something which becomes extremely important.
And talking about EBITDA margins, how much do you enjoy? How much does Varroc enjoy currently?
So last year, I think if you talk about 17, 18, we were close to about, I think 9.7, 9.8%, overall, which includes and also our PAT was around 4.2, 4.3%.
Right.
So yes, that's also a focus for us. Growing margins going forward is a distinct focus for us. But for us as a company, from the financial side, it's not only the margins we look at. Yes, we should be at double-digit margin. We should be at about a bit of 12-13% overall. That's the stated kind of target. But for us, equally important, the ROCE. Now, ROCE last year we were at over 18. And going forward, our benchmark is 20. That's something which we hope to realize in the near future. So we look at a balancing of ROCE with the margins. We don't look at only one aspect, because it's important. Both these ratios are important for us.
And you grew at a CAGR of about 14.3 over the last 4-5 years. Is it sustainable? And secondly, by 2030, if you look at that time frame, where do you see Varroc Engineering reaching in terms of business? So
for the reasons I mentioned to you earlier, the kind of huge growth scope which is there for the various reasons I mentioned, I see no reason why we can't keep up, with that growth. I see this thing, no reason. There'll be I do feel that we're able to grow the way we have grown in the past, and that's anyway something which we are all driven by. The whole team, the whole leadership team is driven to actually. Growth is very important. Growth is the best way to drive margins also. So that's something which we are always going to do.
And also from I've been tracking the Varroc story for quite some time. I've seen it's also a reflection of an aspiration of a homegrown Indian company to be really a significant player in the global space. Towards that, does the disruptions give Indian companies like Varroc a kind of a kind of a bonus chance, so to speak, to be at par with the global tier one?
Yeah. So on the global lighting business angle, we anyway are global. And India too, I would say that, if you to benchmark us with all the multinationals, more in the 2 and 3 wheeler space, I would say, I think that we can play with the big boys. I don't want to name them, but we all know who the big boys are there, the multinational company, whether Japanese or European. I think that, I think we are there with them. And I think that today our entry into, being in products like, the electronic dashboards where we're competing with, the top, like for example, in Honda, after the Japanese supplier, Honda two-wheelers has chosen us as the second supplier, an Indian supplier. In the case of gears, we're a very critical component.
When it comes to a Japanese OEM, it makes a special achievement of sorts.
It's a special achievement. That means that the Honda is the largest two-wheeler company in the world, and if they feel that we can, as an Indian player, we can be the number 2 player, in that particular segment. That's very good. So in the case of electronic dashboards, in the case of gears, after the Japanese supplier, we are the number 2. They've chosen us as a supplier.
Right.
So which means that we can play with the big boys. Or we are into products, in a two-wheeler LED lighting space, two-wheeler LED lighting space. We are amongst the leaders anyway. So that's something we are going to anyway grow. We are anyway playing with the big boys. Over there, in the catalyst business, we are entering into the electronic fuel injection market where customers feel that we are good enough to play in the EFI market. Though we are entering into a partnership with no prior experience, but with a strong strength on the electronic space. There are customers, who are giving us an entry in that space also.
But on the four-wheeler side, if I'm not wrong, the things have not moved as you had planned in the domestic market. Is it because of the strong competition, or was there other factors?
No. So four-wheeler, I'm assuming you're talking about the lighting market.
Lighting as well as your trims in interior, the plastic polymers.
So what happens here is that we don't want to lose focus. So our focus till we acquired the lighting business of Visteon in 2012, focus was largely more the 2 and 3 wheeler parts. That was the only core business we had. Then becoming a global player, that became a second core business, and our biggest business, which we had. Now when we bought so what has happened is that yes, in India we are playing in four-wheeler lamps, we are playing in four-wheeler interior parts, for cars and trucks. We are playing in the engine valves, on the powertrain side, engine valves, some forgings and machine parts. That's something I think which we will continue to grow, because I think that's a good business case for us. So there I think even in that space, I think we have done well. We have done well, and we will be growing in that space. Where we have not focused, so that we don't have focus in our plastic interior business, or in our valves business, or in our gears, in the forging and machining business. Where we have not shown that much of focus, we should show more focus is in our four-wheeler lighting business. The reason was that we were, when we got in, when we bought the business from Visteon, we had to focus more on the developed markets, of North America, Europe, and even in China. So we couldn't really focus much on India. But now I think, that we are quite stable in these more developed markets. We want to now focus on the four-wheeler lighting segment in India.
Of your overall business, how much in terms of percentage could be adversely impacted by this, the disruptions of electric mobility, so to speak?
So, like I said, that 84% of our overall business is engine agnostic. So when we talk about a dependence on the engine side, it is more on the 2 and 3 wheeler part space. Some of the electronic components we do, some of the like the transmission parts, engine valves. So there is a certain percentage of business, which will get impacted. But it's not going to be. But we're not going to be overall as a company so impacted even in India. Because I still feel that there is still a way to go. There's still time left for the engine.
Right.
In the Indian
context, there will be a transition, gradual transition. It won't be an abrupt.
I still think there's a play for at least next 20 years. For the engine.
Right.
In India there will be this disruptions from the EV vehicle. But I still think that, I'm going to be the last. We're going to be the last man standing when it comes to engine parts. We are very clear on that because of our scale and size.
Right. And lastly, Tarang, you have been a successful first generation entrepreneur, and as I can see, the next generation has entered into the business. How are you grooming the next generation, Arjun?
So Arjun, I think today, I mean, my eldest son, I've got two sons, one is Arjun. He actually heads one of our electric electronics business, and I think he's shaping up quite well. He understands the technology space very well. I mean, he studied in the US, he did undergrad from the US, and then he came into India. He was a part of the whole strategy team, the performance improvement team, and then he just slipped into a leadership role of managing a business. And I think the electric electronic business is doing pretty well, under him. So he's already a part of the business. My youngest son, he graduated from the University of Chicago last year, and he is working in a startup, in San Francisco, also around, the telematics around the autonomous cars, in a small startup. And I think he's going to be there for a couple of years, and then probably also come and join the business. We'll see how it goes. But I think that, ultimately, I do believe that, there are opportunities available, I mean, for children and all, but they have to prove themselves also.
And perhaps at some point, maybe a vertical for autonomous advanced driving assistance systems also for Varroc.
Exactly. So it could be, you're absolutely right, there's going to be something which could be very interesting for us to kind of, look into going forward.
What are the guiding principles that drive you and your organization, and you would like that to carry for your next generation also to carry on?
Yeah. So basically, I would say the soul of our business is our values, and the values, when I say, is we have coined the word SHIPS: sincerity, humility, integrity, passion, and self-discipline. And I do expect the whole team, starting with the leadership, to embody these values, not just talk about them, but demonstrate those kind of behaviors and actions. That becomes very important. And these values, are not something which I have just coined. I've coined them on my own. These are values I've grown up with, the basic things of being grounded, the humility factor, the basic things of hard work. These are some of the things, which I have actually grown up with as a child, something I've embodied from my parents. While growing up, the same thing. These are all universal values, whether for personal reasons or for business reasons. In business,
Yes.
That's something which I believe is a core of any company. The company has to grow effectively. You need a value-based leadership and a team. I think you can grow 10x faster if, other than the skills, people possess, they embody the values.
I think with those values, be it an individual or a company, the life of an individual or a company is bound to be successful. On that note, Tarang, thank you very much for sparing your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Likewise. Thanks so much.
And thank you very much for watching this episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. As always, keep tracking Autocar Professional for all the developments of the Indian and the global automotive industry through interviews such as like this one, or through our fortnightly magazine Autocar Professional, and then we are present on the web also, www.autocarpro.in, and of course on the social media channels as well. Thank you once again for watching this episode of the Autocar Professional Dialogue. Till we meet again, goodbye.